They were speaking about a new life they wanted to begin, and the interesting things they wanted to do in order to kick off this new life. But Jesus went home. He goes home to his people, to the place where nearly all of his ministry took place. He's risen from the dead, and he goes home. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that this is a crucial lesson for us about Easter. The truth of the resurrection is found close to home, in the ordinary places where we gather. It's found among our own people, in the sights and the sounds that are not uncommon to you and me, not in spectacular sights or wondrous things that we've never even imagined, but in the common sights, the things that you and I know about, close to home. To our minds, which are so full of human accomplishments and technology and scientific wonders, this empty tomb can lead us into some very impersonal analysis of the events of Jesus' life. Well, how did this happen? What was the physiology and the biology of this? Was this some kind of miracle because we've never seen anything else like it, never heard of anything else like it? We don't know anybody who experienced this. But the truth of the resurrection can't be found in detached analysis. And I submit that we are a people that loves to analyze and go over things, and in many ways are very distracted by some of these things. I'll tell you, one of my main distractions is the TV show, the CSI series. You know the CSI series with the criminal investigations? I love this show. I love this show. I especially like it when the guy in the autopsy room takes that little saw and cuts the top of the head off, pulls that off, pulls the brain out, says, oh, look at here, we got this, and then opens up the chest, and you look at the faces on some people. And I'm thinking, this is really interesting stuff. I love this stuff. If I was starting out again in life in another career, I think that would be one that I'd be interested in. And we want to pull stuff apart and analyze it and see, is this right? What happened? Is this true? And the story is fascinating because the mystery is involved with so much complexity, and then it finally evolves into an answer. The result of the case is printed out on a cold report. Those machines, I don't even know if some of those machines exist. I think they were just made up. They spit all this information out so quickly. It's amazing to me. A cold report produced in an immaculate laboratory. The truth is, about Jesus' life, it's much closer to home. In our not very immaculate lives, in ordinary places with people around us who live and love very imperfectly, Jesus' resurrection says that death and evil are not final. Sometimes they appear to be final. And often we seem overwhelmed by these things, and we see our friends and neighbors and people in other parts of the world seemingly overcome by this. Because yes, life is very difficult. But the truth of the resurrection is that love never dies. It never loses its power to make us new. I think of that with the example of this fly fishing captain from the Navy. He loved fishing. That was one of his things. And he turned this ordinary hobby into a loving program for suffering veterans. And it's obvious, the way he spoke about it, and now this program is expanding all over the country, that he loves these veterans. He's transferred that love from his hobby to the lives of these veterans who are suffering and so down on life, and so believing that evil has just done them in. The power of Easter is the idea that everything can be different. When I worked with disadvantaged children, emotionally disturbed children for years in a residential school, you could identify the children who thought nothing could be different. And quite often when they came to the school, that's what they thought. And you looked into their eyes, and they were hopeless eyes. I don't know if you've had that experience very often, but you've had it at least once in your life to encounter a person who has no hope. And that is a scary, scary proposition. And these children would say to me, teenagers, nothing can be different. But the truth is, about Easter, the idea is let loose that everything can be different. Everything close to home. Not in some distant heaven, but now close to home. The power of Easter is that Jesus comes home to you and me and meets us where we are in this life and shows us how life could be. The power of Easter is measured in our decisions to be strong against death or evil or injustice. I think that two of my oldest friends, their names are George and Barbara, and their son, Jason, at 4 years old, got sick on one weekend and died on the next. And he was their only child. Can you imagine? Some of you have had this experience, I know. And those of you who haven't, and we look at all these cute little kids around us, can you imagine that experience and the evil that brings into a person's life and the belief that life, how can life go on after this? But these two very deeply faithful people pulled themselves together with God's help. And they went to other suffering parents. And so they replayed the scenario over and over with other people in order to help them live beyond this pain. These two people are the salt of the earth to me and always have been. The power of Easter shows in our not tolerating abuse or neglect or dehumanizing treatment of any child of God. We will not tolerate that. Because we have learned in the Easter story that everything can be new. We believe in constantly overcoming evil with good. Do you want to know the truth about the resurrection? Look close to home, because that's where Jesus will meet you. Amen.